Let's start with a very interesting pro-revenge Reddit story from Judas697734. HOA yells at me for training guide dog and grilling, then loses position on board. To start the story, some background you need to know about me. I volunteer to train and raise service dogs. My fiancé says I clearly have a look that says I am weak and a pushover. I have constant encounters with Karens who are just not ready for my responses when they engage me. I have been in the military for 17 years when this happened, and I was responsible for managing over 130 service members. I am anything but a pushover. I work with civilians, so I have cultivated a polite exterior because I was counseled for looking unapproachable and scary to civilian counterparts. The story, as I said, I raise service animals, so I fall under the ADA when it comes to regulations on where and what I can do with my puppy. We'll call him OO, is an amazingly well-behaved black lab of 6 months. I have cultivated a level of trust and obedience where I can leave him in a sit with other dogs around so long as I am in eyesight, he will stay. I have raised a few pups by then, and I would never have done that with them. But O is amazing, and I can't wait to get him back after his tour of duty helping Mrs. C be independent. I met the HOA Karen one Saturday. My fiancé and I were going to head on a road trip to visit my fiancé's parents. In our preparation, the last on the list is always getting the kids to use the bathroom before a long trip. So we head out, O gets busy, and I grab a bag to clean it up. I put him in a sit-stay and hand the leash to my girl. I start walking to the trash can. It's about 100 feet from where he went. I have a clear line of sight to the dog, and he is sitting pretty and alert, watching me intently for a hand cue or voice command. As I am walking, I hear a womanly screech. I don't quite make it out, but it sounds angry. I ignore it and keep walking to the dumpster, deposit my waste bag, and turn around to head back to my two favorite people. It is then I make eye contact with the HOA Karen from here on out. She is your typical Karen, not an inch over 5 feet, and has the same circumference. The short cropped hair that says, "I'm the manager now." She looks me in the eyes, and I finally listen to her shrill scream of, "Your dog must be on a leash, and in your hand, my county state law says so. I will call the cops." Now, I don't do ignorant, and respect given is respect earned. I was willing to try and de-escalate. My fiancé owns the condo and is super non-confrontational. So for her, I try to bring it back down to civil levels of discussion. In a polite but firm voice, I asked if she even looked over at the dog before she started yelling at me. She just bellows like a banshee again. I repeat. This back and forth happens 3 or 4 times. Me calm, her escalating in pitch and volume. At this point, she hasn't given respect, so none is required to be given back. I break out my "you done fucked up" NCO to junior voice. It is loud, firm, and clearly states I'm done with your bullshit, lady. I clearly tell her if she would have taken 2 seconds to look, she would see the dog is sitting on a leash in someone's hands. She stops bellowing at me, looks, and turns a bit red in the face, then musters, "You could just say thank you." Which I curtly reply, "Shut the fuck up and get out of my face." She waddled quickly off, tail tucked into her condo door. My next meeting with her was when I was grilling. The HOA states no charcoal grills and no smoking BBQ. I was born in the north, but as a military brat moved to the south since I was 2. There is a difference between BBQing and grilling. BBQ is 12 plus hours with coals of hardwood or wood smoking. Grilling is cooking meat on a grill instead of the stove. The HOA put out a reminder, no BBQing on the premises and no coals. So I was like, awesome, get a small propane grill. It's not BBQ, but it's better than nothing. So I was out grilling, and I hear the banshee cry all too familiar now. Again, she didn't come up to me and talk. She just started screaming. So I looked her right in the eye and with the same firm voice, "Shut the fuck up and go away. If you say one more word, I'll be the one calling the cops for harassment by an HOA member." She sputtered something about no grilling or open flames, and I told her to fuck off, show me in writing and by someone other than her. She waddled off, and then I was approached by the HOA president with the HOA bylaws and sat to read them, during which my fiancée started a conversation with them about another issue we were having with them. She was in the middle of having the state attorney's office ask some questions about activities they were trying to force her into paying for. It wasn't going well for the HOA, and she took this opportunity to introduce herself. While she may be non-confrontational when it comes to small things, she will stand up for herself when it comes to it. Her introducing herself changed everyone's tone, and they became, oh, so polite. Karen tried to play the victim to her and say I was mean and could use some manners when engaging with people. I love my soon-to-be wife. She let her paint her tale of how she was a victim. When she finished, she looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You know, I was the one holding the leash, and I was standing right here when he was grilling. So no, you got the same respect you gave." She paled and faded to the back. That's when the president of the HOA stepped in and told me I can't have the grill and that I can be fined, and I needed to follow the rules of the HOA, or the next time he'll be the one calling the cops. Well, press Roger that. It is my job to enforce regulations in the military. I spend hours reading instructions. Nothing pleases me more than when I can shove the black and white in an asshole's face at work to get my guys what they are owed or to force them to do the job right. So you want me to follow the rules? Copy that, buddy. So I began my research. I found a few interesting things. No HOA bylaw can be enforced if it is not in the state database. This particular HOA's bylaws were last updated in 1994. It was 2016. They state they follow my county's fire code, which follows NFPA. Finally, the gem, the exact latitude and longitude coordinates of the HOA's property lines. So I got a login for the state's database and printed the HOA's bylaws. I printed the NFPA, which states in a multifamily home you can store propane tanks no bigger than 2.7 litres, but they can total no more than 5.4 litres cumulatively. I went to Lowe's, got a rope, tape measure and stakes. I pulled up Google Maps and marked the HOA boundary line on it. Lo and behold, what do I find? A drainage ditch that is city property not 10 feet from where I was grilling. So I took my coordinates, my stakes, and carefully marked off the section of city property. Now for the revenge, I called the city county fire departments and requested a permit to grill on said city property. They said, go for it. I didn't need a permit for it. No one would care. I insisted, and they said it's my $50. They issued an event open flame, so with both permits it was $100. But I got permission from the city to grill there for 6 months. The next day at 0700, I went to set up. I carefully measured so I was at least 3 feet into the city property, set up my cooler with enough meat and beer to grill till doomsday. Then waited for the fireworks. It didn't take long for Karen to come screaming at me. I mean, I was 10 feet from the community pool and 3 feet from the sidewalk gazebo that led to the pool. I just hit record on my phone and politely told her she has no need to yell, and I am breaking no laws. She kept screaming about no grilling and how she is tired of me and she is going to get me arrested and kicked out if it's the last thing she does. She hasn't liked me since she saw me and has just been waiting to get me kicked out. That now that she knows which condo is mine, it is just a matter of time till she finds something. On and on. I guess me being polite and showing zero fear was pissing her off. She tried to come take my stuff. Big no-no. As she reached for my cooler, I broke out my NCO voice and told her if she so much as brushes a finger against my property, I would remove the offending body part with force if necessary. This sent her scurrying off again. About 20 minutes later, I see 2 cop cars pull up and Mr. HOA press himself. He is all chummy with the cops, and as they approach, I hear him say, "Yep, same guy. I already told him once before he can't grill on the HOA grounds." He comes to a stop about 10 feet from me. One cop stays with him, the other keeps walking up to me. I have a shit-eating grin on my face. I can hardly wait for the conversation to happen. The cop is slightly off-put by my joyous face and slight giggle when I ask, "What seems to be the problem, officer?" I get informed that I am in violation of the bylaws and have been warned once already, and I am going to receive a ticket for disturbing the peace for threatening the HOA when they were trying to enforce the rules. A ticket for an illegal open flame, a ticket for illegal storage of flammable substances, and on and on. The last was if I didn't pack up, I would be arrested and removed. Now that he was done, I first handed him my permit from the city to grill. He took it, walked back to the pres, and they discussed it for a moment, then returned, saying, "You can't get a permit from the city to grill on private property." I then showed him the coordinates for the HOA and the Google Maps gridded drawing and my current GPS location. Mind you, I am smiling, handing sheet after sheet to him because the grid was not all on one sheet and had addendums. It took about 4 minutes to explain it to him. As I was about to hand him more, he held up a hand to stop me. He then asks how long I had planned this with a smirk. I told him, "Oh, about a week." He gave me a look of disbelief, but moved on. He then asked me if I threatened Karen. I just played back the recording to him. At the end, he said, "Nothing seems out of place here. You are free to go." I stopped him and asked if I could file a complaint for HOA harassment through him. He said no, that the city clerk's office is the correct place, but he would document harassment by the two of them and file the report for me. In my state, it's illegal to be harassed by the HOA. It comes with jail time of a few months, fines as high as 5K, and immediate removal from the board and the possibility of recovery of damages. I settled for them both being removed from the board instead of filing a complaint. I waved to Karen every day I grill or showed her my leash if I had O. The revenge was masterclass and was executed flawlessly. By leveraging city regulations, OP legally grilled on public property, showcasing meticulous research and planning. When confronted by the HOA and police, he confidently presented permits and GPS evidence, exposing their harassment. The ultimate satisfaction came when both the HOA president and Karen were removed from the board, leaving him victorious and unbothered. The next story is from Rogue Misanthrope. Employees' lunches are their personal property and the company is not responsible for lost or stolen personal items. Nobody likes a lunch thief, and I had one of the most aggressive at my office. There were rumors for a few months leading up to the inciting incident of someone going around and taking people's lunches. Just about every day, someone different would complain that their lunch was missing. It even happened to me once or twice, but I figured, hey, it's a big office. A few people are probably just careless and grab the wrong lunch and are too embarrassed to bring it back. Or someone else packs their lunch and they don't know what's in there, so it's not obvious they have the wrong one or whatever. Most people just brought brown bags with their names on it anyways, or identical Rubbermaid Tupperware with a little piece of labelled tape on the side. It was easy enough to mix it up. I had accidentally grabbed a wrong lunch once or twice, but I'd noticed before I got it open. I thought I was just more careful, or even just not as busy as some other people in the building. However, other people weren't as forgiving, and a quorum made complaints to HR. They were blown off. Personally, at the time, I thought it was all much ado about nothing. But then it began. My wife enrolled in a French cooking class online, and just about every day I was bringing fancy gourmand leftovers in for lunch. You'd think I was picking up a to-go bag from a Michelin-starred bistro on the way in each morning. She really threw herself into the coursework. There were no problems for about 2 weeks, maybe 3, until one day my lunch went missing. Considering what delicacies I had to look forward to, I was pretty miffed. But I did a once-over around the break room and didn't see anyone eating my lunch, so figured someone grabbed my bag by accident earlier, saw how good things looked and, realizing it was their lucky day, didn't bring it back to the fridge. I wrote the mysterious stranger off as an asshole, but accepted the loss and looked forward to dinner that night instead. Next day, I write my name on my lunch in extra bold lettering, jam the bag into the back of the fridge, and feel peace of mind. I get there, come break time. Nope, it's gone. I was pretty upset, but I figured it was a stroke of bad luck, and left it at that. What else could I do? However, third day, out of an abundance of caution, I kept my lunch at my desk. A pain because I had to eat it fairly early in the day to avoid spoilage, but at least I'd know where it was. I got up to take care of some business down the hall, and when I came back, yep, my lunch was gone. Unfortunately, that didn't help me narrow it down much at all, because my desk is centrally located so everyone's constantly passing by. At that point, there was no possibility of the theft being arbitrary, so I approached HR and filed a complaint. Their response, practically verbatim, was, "Employees' lunches are their personal property, and the company is not responsible for lost or stolen personal items." The following day, my wife packed a cream-based soup that really had to be refrigerated. I was passing by the break room to check on my lunch practically every 5 minutes. Somehow, it still managed to disappear. I was irate at this point and returned to HR and really blew my top. The best they could do was send a memo around about remembering to check the name on your lunch when you remove it from the fridge, but they made very clear that it was a routine memo and in no way related to my complaints, which were not their jurisdiction, so not an admission of responsibility, because my lunch was my own personal problem. The only suitable alternative to packing a lunch available in the building are these wretched shrink-wrapped ham and cheese sandwiches from a vending machine. And they've been marinating in the heat for God knows how long, and the bread is as stale as corkboard, and the meat is rancid, and there's gluey mayo smashed into the center. It's a relic of the old office tenants, I'm pretty sure. I vented daily to my wife, but her only idea was to start bringing a regular sandwich and apple again to dissuade the thief and get him to move on to other lunches. So, determined to prevent this low-life scum from downgrading the quality of my lunch, I hatched an elaborate plan. Then the pandemic hit and I forgot all about this whole saga. I worked remotely for months and months. Then we returned, and after all that had happened globally, this was the last thing on my mind. But I got to the break room the first day back, frustrated from having to wear a button-up and tie after months of working in pajamas, sore from my desk chair, and exhausted from small talk, only to find my lunch was gone. This was a particularly sore point because my wife and I divorced between my last lunch and work and the present one, so I did not appreciate being reminded of any past threads involving her. I pretty much flew into a blind rage at that point, especially seeing that stupid, worthless memo about checking the lunch bag names posted in the break room, feeling so helpless and so hungry and so alone as it was me and my lunch against the world. I stormed out and was determined to return the next day with a plan. So I came in the following day with an empty lunch bag, and I checked closely to be sure no one was watching, and I switched the contents of the HR person's lunch bag into my bag. So now their lunch appeared to be my lunch. They'd packed a regular brown bag, so I just discarded that, and I left, and I waited. I knew this was a pretty big gamble because it was contingent on the theory that the thief was avoiding me while having lunch, but not wary of anyone else. So would eat out in the open if there were no risk of bumping into me. So I made a big show of going around the office, announcing that I was headed out for a meeting and I wouldn't be back until at least 3 p.m. I even went to the trouble of moving my car out of the lot to a space 2 streets over, where I then sat in my car and worked remotely for several hours before sneaking into the building up the back stairway. I then sat in the stairwell just outside the break room, where you can hear chatter can't be seen. And after about 20-30 minutes of waiting, I heard it. The sweetest sound I'll ever hear in the office. HR. "What the heck, Kyle? That's my lunch." "Lunch thief!" "Nah, it's not your name on the bag." HR. "Give me that." I'm assuming grabs bag and sees my name. HR. "Yeah, let's head to my office for a chat." The HR rep later called me in as well and said they were aware of my break room hijinks, but it was obvious that the point still came across loud and clear. They warned me that it was a violation of policy to move another employee's lunch. It took every ounce of self-control for me to keep from retorting, "I thought our lunches were our personal property, and the company was not responsible for them being lost or stolen." They informed me they'd located the thief and things would be handled accordingly. But better than whatever write-up they might be able to issue Kyle, his reveal as the lunch thief occurred in front of the whole break room. So word quickly spread as to who had been stealing everyone's lunches earlier last year, and he is now the office pariah. He was in line for a promotion. The promotion is indefinitely off the table. And I also earned brownie points for exposing him, though more than I'm satisfied with are being attributed to HR. At the end of the day, though, I didn't do this for this credit, or even the sweet, sweet, sweet revenge. I did it to get my lunches back. The revenge was masterclass, and OP executed it strategically, manipulating the thief to finally steal HR's lunch. It is also a sweet revenge on the HR who had told OP to take of his property and belongings on his own. It was truly satisfying. The next interesting story is from throwaway_12322. Ex cheated on me and falsely accused me of rape, so I exposed her to everyone she knew. In late May 2016, I asked my crush, Kate, of 3 years out on a coffee date. 3 dates later, we made things official. For the next 7 months, our relationship felt too good to be true. We clicked on so many interests, so we hardly ever disagreed on anything. We were very open with each other, which led to an incredible sex life. We both had good jobs, so we had money to spoil one another, and our families were both enthusiastic about our relationship. In January 2017, I was accepted into my country's Armed Forces Reserve program as a combat engineer. I underwent basic training from February to late April, and it was up until then the hardest thing I had ever done. There were several times I thought I wouldn't graduate, and the only thing that kept me going was Kate's words of encouragement over texts and calls. She was there when I received my BTC certificate and never let me forget how proud she was of me. As part of my job in the reserves, I would have to go away in the summer for advanced training between early June to late August. Kate fully supported me going 400 kilometers away to the training center and spending almost our entire summer break on work to further my military career. The summer was brutal on me. I was a social outcast from every clique that formed on our course and was the butt of several jokes. My self-esteem plummeted through the floor, but Kate's belief in me was what made me prevail. I passed as 5th best on course, and I owed it all to her. The decline. Things between us started to sour after returning home. According to her, I wasn't as spontaneous and outgoing as before I went away. I was dismissive, took small jabs and jokes as personal insults, and would rather stay in, watch movies, and have sex instead of going out. Unbeknownst to both of us, I had developed some nasty social anxiety due to the events of the summer, and it started affecting our relationship. Nearing our 2-year anniversary in 2018, we got into a heated argument over a small misunderstanding and subsequently broke up. I was incredibly distraught, before she texted me 3 days later and said she wanted to try and fix things. I didn't see her for 3 weeks, but we kept in touch every day, slowly mending things. When we officially got back together, nothing felt the same. Every time I talked with her, it was as if I was walking on eggshells, and it only worsened my anxiety, which in turn hurt our already damaged relationship. Then things finally came to a head at the end of July. The hurt. While in school, Kate had met a dude named John. She saw in John what she used to see in me, and they quickly became very close friends. He consoled her through our breakup and every little time I messed up afterwards. For the record, I knew of John, but never thought Kate would ever do anything with him. One night after work, we had planned for me to stay the night at Kate's place. I arrived to see the two of them chilling on the living room couch. Kate said that John had dropped by for a spontaneous visit, and he was just leaving. After John left, she became cold and distant. I slowly accepted that our relationship was dead, and asked her how things were between us. She echoed my thoughts, and we agreed to break up the next day. She said I could stay the night one last time, seeing how it was late and she was still worried about me. From there on until she fell asleep, Kate became uncharacteristically glued to and protective of her phone. In the past, she wouldn't care if I had glanced over to catch her and her friends texting about whatever, but now she did her best to hide the screen from me. I asked her about it and she said it was private stuff, which only raised more questions. After she fell asleep, curiosity got the better of me. I unlocked her phone, I knew her passcode, and found hundreds of messages between her and John. Messages about how she was now single, how exciting it was that they could now be a couple in public, and laughing at me about every little thing I did. I quietly sobbed as I read through each hurtful text. My crying wasn't as quiet as I thought. Kate stirred, and once she realized what I was doing, she threw a fit. I couldn't find the anger or words to combat her, so I just grabbed my stuff and left, with Kate shouting and yelling at me the whole time. It was late in the morning when I got home. I just broke down and ugly cried all night. I called in sick from work the next day and spent it sulking in my bed. The day after, I got several angry texts from Kate's friends and family. In a bid to save her image and denounce anything I might say about her, she told anyone she knew that I had forced myself upon her that night in one last attempt to get some before we broke up and left after the deed was done. Though what I had done was scarring, she refused to press charges because she didn't want to make a circus of her life in court, and was the bigger person by doing so. I spent the next few months in fear that her allegation would have me discharged from the army and my image forever tarnished. But nothing ever happened. The revenge. 5 months afterward, Kate DM'd me. After pleasantries, she basically apologized for the whole thing and actually admitted to faking it, though she would never publicly admit it to save her own reputation. My image, be damned. This angered me, but I kept cool. I screenshot the texts and continued talking with her. Over the next 3 months, she entered into a cycle of events as follows. Complain about a current life situation, usually about John screwing up in their relationship in one way or another, and asking for advice. Lamenting our relationship, how I never screwed up like John did, how she wished we could go back to the way things were, blah blah blah. Ignoring me because John finally pulled his head out of his ass, did some huge romantic gesture, and saved their relationship. Going on a smear campaign on social media about our relationship, employing her friends for help, knowing in full that I would see it all, and trying to bait me into an argument. It would work. She would try to turn the argument around and paint me as the bad guy, and then block me for about a month before repeating the cycle. This happened 3 times like clockwork, and always left me burnt out and broken. But a part of me wanted it to happen. Each time it did, I took screenshots of every damning thing she said. I had a full SD card of everything I compiled before I finally decided it was time. Making several picture copies of the worst text messages I caught, I bought several manila envelopes and mailed them to everyone I thought would matter to Kate. Her parents, grandparents, extended family she was super close with, best friends, work boss, co-workers, teachers, whoever I could find a mailing address for. I made sure that anyone getting the envelope would know that the texts were between me and Kate and sent them off. Within 3 weeks, I got results. Some of the people who messaged me to shame and insult me before now apologized for their words. My favorite was from her own parents, who went on to say that they were deeply sorry about their daughter's behavior, how they raised her to be better than how she acted, and to please not pursue any legal actions. The thought had crossed my mind, but I didn't have the money nor the mental fortitude to fight a legal battle. I told them I'd think about it, and that they'd be the first to know besides Kate if I did. Kate sent me some texts as well, with things like, "How could you betray my trust like that?" or, "You ruined my life, you bastard." I didn't reply. I just read every angry text that flew in with a satisfied grin and then blocked her when they stopped. I never fully found out how badly her life was affected by my revenge, but I do know that she dropped out of school and no longer has a job. I hope John was worth it. TL, DR. Girlfriend cheated on me and falsely accused me of rape to cover it up. I endure her shit for a year, gathering evidence against her via text messages, and socially nuked her life. Edit. Thank you all so much for the kind words of support. A lot of people have been worrying about my mental state, so I thought I'd relieve those worries. I've been seeing a therapist for 3 months now and have made significant progress. I can't begin to explain how much I owe her for helping me regain some semblance of normalcy in my life. The revenge was brutal and satisfying. Kate's accusations finally backfired when OP exposed her with evidence to all people who matter to Kate. It was very cool to see Kate losing her job and getting her social life ruined. People like Kate deserve more than what OP did. BTW, the revenge was masterclass.